In Bilbao, Spain, the United States at halftime, 44-32 over Ukraine. Kyrie Irving, 7 first-half points, spoke with our Bob Holtzman.
Kyrie, a 22-5 run there to end the first half, but yet another slow start for this team. What's going on?
I mean, we don't want to make any excuses. Just getting used to the daily grind of playing in World Cup basketball and pool play. We just didn't come out with the necessary energy in the first quarter, but, we picked up in the second quarter. And like you said, went on a 22-5 run, picked up our defense.
This building, it seems like, is fairly dead today. I'm not sure why, but what's the energy like on the court?
I mean, honestly, it's all about our energy and what we have to do. We got to figure it out, going into halftime and then coming out. I'm pretty sure we'll come out with the energy we need necessary to put this game away.
Good luck in the second half.
And the United States in possession to start the third quarter. Fran, the guards actually carrying more of the load than the bigs, Fareed and Davis, so far in this ballgame.
Mike Fratello did a good job early of trying to double team in the low post, forcing Team USA to play from the perimeter. And despite the 12-point lead for Team USA, it was actually pretty good strategy because the pace of this game favored the Ukraine in the first half.
James Harden picking up the foul. That'll be his second, first of the third quarter.
Team USA, Mark, did not shoot the ball well from behind the arc early in this tournament. Only 33%. And so Mike Krzyzewski just taking a calculated risk. And Team USA 3 for 7 so far.
Jeter against Fareed, way out defending, missing, and Davis has the board.
Yeah, Jetter's had a tough day for the Ukraine. He's got to make those shots for them to stay in this game.
He's 2 for 6 so far this afternoon. It was their high score and leading assist man, 16 points, almost 6 assists per game, as Harden got caught up with Jeter there, and he'll pick up his third personal.
You don't want to read too much into. I've been watching Team USA for a lot of years now. You don't want to read too much into the scores, but I keep talking about the process, and really in terms of the half-court offense, there's not really a lot of continuity and flow. It's really pretty much one-on-one plays. Now that time a drive and a kick and a dump off, breaking the defense down. Love to see more of that, but in order to get that particular play against the best teams in this tournament, it's going to require side-to-side movement of the defense. And now you attack, draw a second or third defender, and you can dump it off like that.
Not a lot of time to practice in the preliminary round. Mainly been shoot-arounds before the games. Did not practice on Monday on the lone off day. There will be a practice tomorrow in Barcelona in advance of their game. And they'll continue on as Kornienko found some pressure.
It's one thing you can count on in pool play is Anthony Davis protecting the basket.
Crane trying to run the floor. Jeter thought about spotting up. Pass. Kratsov gets through Davis, pumps, goes other side and scores.
Slav has had a good, solid performance today. Again, he's a free agent looking for a home, whether it's in Europe or in the NBA.
10 points for Kratsov. Here's Curry, quick stroke three, knocks it down. And now the first player in double figures for the Americans, Steph Curry with 11. Curry 11, Harden 8, Kyrie Irving 7 points. Alexander Lipovy against Kenneth Fareed, doing a lot of his defending on the perimeter. And a foul against Fareed on the floor. Number 2 on Kenneth Fareed.
In a tournament like this, Kenneth Fareed could guard. He could guard 5 spots, really. There are probably very few point guards that he couldn't guard in this tournament. He moves his feet really well.
Kratsov turns it over there, trying to go for the spin move on Davis. 9th turnover on Ukraine.
Watch Davis now. He's just going to hold his ground, and Kratsov really nowhere to go.
United States trailed by 5 after 1 quarter, scored only 14 first quarter points. Extended run in the second to open it up. Bob Holtzman was right at halftime. Very dead atmosphere inside the Vizcaya Arena, in stark contrast to the first game when Finland and New Zealand went at it. And of course, Finland has brought so many fans from their nation, and it was a tied game going into the final seconds. I think a lot of the crowd it wants to be oohed and ahed by Team USA, and they're just not getting that play in the preliminary rounds.
I got to tell you about something interesting that I saw on my Twitter at halftime. We'll get into it's a tweet from Goran Dragic, and
we're going to talk about that tweet from Goran Dragic coming up in a moment. Timeout off the Harden make. 7 minutes to go in the third. Team USA wrapping up its preliminary schedule. Lead over Ukraine. 7 minutes to go in the third. Before that timeout, Fran Frischel, we talked about something Goran Dragic had put out on Twitter a short time ago.
Yes, he said basketball is a beautiful game. There is no room for fixing the game like today. Australia versus Angola. Fiba should do something about that. And we was alluding to the fact that Australia basically rested their best players in the second half today against Angola. And that puts the onus on Lithuania to try to win the tournament. Australia is trying to stay out of the second spot in Group D, so they would not have to see Team USA until the semifinal match.
Mitro Zaberchenko with the three-pointer. Now, by losing that game, they also put themselves in position to finish second if Lithuania loses tonight, but they have given Lithuania incentive to win the group.
That's right.
And Slovenia would end up in second place.
If Australia would have been 4-1, I can almost guarantee you that Lithuania would not have wanted to win their game with Slovenia tonight. And you'll take a look at it here. It's still a little mumble-jumbo, a lot of explaining to do, but by virtue of Australia losing today, they've now put the onus on Lithuania to try to go ahead and win Pool D by beating Slovenia, and that would drop Australia to third place because they've already lost to Slovenia. So lots of gamesmanship going on because these teams would love to win a medal, even if they can't beat Spain or Team USA. They realize they're all playing really in many ways for third place right now.
And just to give some more background, they do not reseed in this tournament. So once the final 16 are there, as Farid knocks it out of play, but right to Jeter, beating the shot clock for the triple.
It's a big shot for Jeter. We talked about him struggling a little bit, and the reason he's struggling is because he has to take shots. You know, he's really the only breakdown player that Ukraine has on its team.
Here's Harden from straight on. So just to finish that thought is if you finish in first or third place in Group D, as Harden gets the steal, the contact, and the basket, he'll go to the line. First and third guarantees you will not see the opposite group in your half, the United States, until the semis as opposed to the quarters. So that's why it's such a big deal not to finish in second.
And on the other side of the bracket, Greece and Argentina will play today. And that's straight up. The winner finishes first. The loser finishes second. So there's going to be a lot at stake as Harden scores in that game because the winner stays away from Spain until the semifinals.
It's a mirror image from the top half with Spain and the bottom half of the tournament with the United States. Harden can't complete the three, but the offensive board. Skip pass to Rose. And it knocked out of bounds. It'll stay United States ball. And a reminder, FIBA World Cup round of 16 action. It's going to tip off on Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern, ESPN2. The United States will face either Mexico or Angola. All games available live on ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN app. Here's Harden off the feed scoring. He's got 13 points.
And just to give you an update, Mexico is leading Korea by 19 at the end of the third quarter. So barring a miraculous comeback, Team USA will play Mexico.
Pass inside to the big man, Slava Kravtsov for the score. He's got 12.
Listen, I wouldn't put it past, and listen, I'm going to say it. I wouldn't put it past Coach K for him to coast into this fourth quarter and not beat Ukraine by 40 or 50. Just to do a favor for a friend.
I was going to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and they're going to win this game. They could win it. They could really pretty much name their score. Who knows? Maybe Coach K is following what's going on internationally in the news. But
There's a nice feed.
Yeah.
Cross off with the basket.
That looked like the Australia defense we saw this morning in the second half. I thought that Angola was playing the Washington Generals in the second half today. That was, in many ways, it is disgraceful, but it's the way pool play is set up, and everybody is trying to finish as high as they can in the tournament. Pool play wins really don't mean anything. Nice look there by Pujetter. Kravtsov's had a nice performance today.
Well, it's unfortunate in that, it's a way to get around the system. That's the way it is, and the way you have to think on some levels in case, when this tournament goes to 32, perhaps it'll be reseeded, or who knows, or you'll cross over with different groups. So, that's the way to get around it. I will say this, though. I did not go to Harvard like your son.
Sure.
And I've sat here for a couple hours trying, anyone who went to school with me knows that, the smoke coming out of my ears trying to figure it out.
Well, and, the interesting thing about goal average is you really can't figure it out until you get a final score.
Correct. It's not a simple plus minus.
It's not a simple plus minus. It's going to have a lot to do with,
For example, if New Zealand had lost the game to Finland.
Yes.
Remember, the United States beat Finland by 59. So Ukraine was pulling hard for Finland to win that game.
But I think, Mark, if I may, I think goal average is only going to be between the teams that have played each other.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
If it's a three-way tie.
Exactly.
See, again, smoke coming out of my ears.
No, I know. Listen, I've read this, I went to Brooklyn College, and I got a good education there, but I didn't take a lot of math.
There's that update on the Mexico-Korea score from Gran Canaria. Late third, Mexico win. They will face the United States Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern. That's the easy part. United States already has clinched Group C. And Pujetter knocking down a triple on a day. He has struggled from outside, and Sergei Gladier cheering on his teammates.
And that was a bad ankle sprain. And if Ukraine does manage to move on, interesting to see if he can come back.
Cousins hit by Lipovi, who will pick up his second foul.
Pujetter, who's an outstanding player for the Portland Pilots in the WCC. We mentioned he's been around the world playing in numerous countries. Played with this guy, as you mentioned, as rookies, although they're a little different age back then.
Yeah, I think Jeter might have already been in a couple of European teams. He had been to the Ukraine.
Oh, yeah, but
his NBA rookie season.
Yes, NBA
and
rookie.
DeMarcus' first year out of Kentucky.
Yep.
They were together in Sacramento and apparently still stay in touch.
Yeah, Pooh was in 5 NBA summer leagues. And now he's at the stage of his career, really, that it makes no sense for him to be a backup, an NBA backup, when he's making great money in China and there's a lot of perks, and you don't have to give the government as much of your money.
And he's really enjoying playing for Ukraine as well. He'll shake him back over Rudy.
How about that?
That's a deep 2 and 12 points for Pujetter.
Heating up right now.
Harden trying to answer. Blocked by Kravtsov, out of bounds. It'll stay with the United States.
Unlike the U.S., these guys started training camp on July 15th, and they've been in Kiev, they've been in Lithuania, they've been in France, they've been in Slovenia, and came to Spain and played a couple of friendly matches. So they have been together a long time, and this would be a great accomplishment if they're able to get out of pool play.
Contact and the basket for James Harden. Will head back to the line. 15 for James Harden, having one of his biggest games of the preliminary round.
You always sense with this team USA that when they do get to crunch time in a close game, if in fact there is one, that it'll be James Harden with the ball in his hands. You mentioned how good a manufacturer he is of not only his own shot, but averaged 5 assists a game last year. He plays in high pick and roll so much for Kevin McHale that he's really one of the best pick and roll players in the NBA. Quick move.
There's Cousins, not able to score. By the way, Pujetter bringing the ball up the floor. That was his 4th foul, so Mike Fratello sticking with him as Jeter gets the foul. The United States has some foul to give here late in the quarter. Derrick Rose got called there. A reminder, the NASCAR season comes down to Richmond. The drivers have one more shot to lock up a spot in the all-new Chase. 43 drivers battle, 16 advance, 1 race to go. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Richmond, presented by AutoZone. Now, also on this Ukrainian squad, a guy I've been working on pronunciation all night long, Sviatoslav Mikhailuk.
He has just entered the game.
Number 7 in white in the opposite corner.
Yep. Being guarded by Klay Thompson right now. He's only 17 years old. He turned 17 in June. And he's going to play for Bill Self this year. He's going to get back just in time for Kansas's Hell Week, which is their conditioning program. He'll love that.
And there's Rudy Gay getting hit on his way up to the bucket. Mikhailuk bringing it up for Ukraine.
Sviatoslav Mikhailuk.
Ooh, already Hell Week as he turns it over behind the back, and Harden finishes.
Mikhailuk's one of the best young players in Europe, and he came onto the scene this year in the States. He was a late addition to the international team in the Nike Hoop Summit, and a bunch of schools had been on him a little bit, but Kansas jumped into the fray, and hard to turn down Bill Self and all that great tradition.
Cousins on a great feed from Rose scoring. I know Dario Saric is probably the #1 international rated right now. Where is Mikhailuk?
Well, he's just a baby.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, he'll turn 18 next June. He'll be one. He almost can't. Well, that's not him, but he's one of the youngest players in major college basketball this year, if not the youngest.
He won't turn 18 till October. Was it?
Well,
I got to double check that.
Yeah.
One.
No, it may be October.
I thought I had him in the fall.
But he is 17. Nice jump hook right there.
Zaitsev, Ihor Zaitsev, 6'8" forward. Ukraine, say only down 16, because that could come into play when they're figuring out who else is getting out of Group C. Rose into a triple team, gets his own rebound, and high out the window missed. That's what we haven't seen from Derek. That secondary explosion a couple times yesterday, going at the rim. Didn't quite have to lift.
Hadn't finished quite as well.
Yeah, good to see on the 3rd straight day of action. Take a look at Derek in action. Derrick Rose will bring it up the floor in the final 30 seconds of the 3rd quarter. Harden the lob, and Davis there to put it off the glass.
And they just went 2-man game on the side. There wasn't any defensive rotation from the weak side, and Harden and Davis have developed some nice chemistry in that pick and roll game. He and Fareed as well.
Final shot of the 3rd quarter to Ukraine. They'll have to inbound as Thompson knocks it out of bounds. U.S. had a perfect run through the 2010 Fiba World Championship in Turkey.
Minus that scare to Brazil.
Did have the scare.
In pool play, 2-point win.
Good use of the foul to give by Anthony Davis. That's number 3 on Davis.
I think he did that on purpose, although Natyasko is not Dwight Howard in there.
Inbound out to Zaitsev. Little running 3 off the glass and in. That's big 3 points for Ukraine as we look toward tie break. James Harden with 17. U.S. the lead headed to the 4th. United States headed to the 4th quarter with a 69-54 lead. Their final 10 minutes in Bilbao, Spain. Will be headed to Barcelona for the round of 16 beginning on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. However, will the Ukraine be heading to Barcelona as well as they load up? Kirill Natyasko, hook shot, hard off the glass.
Well, that's a reason not to foul Natyasko right there. No offense, he's played hard today.
Thompson on the drive, cut off. Rudy Gay, nice move inside and finishing as well.
Quick jump by Rudy Gay. Good drive to the hoop.
So here's the deal for Ukraine. Assuming they lose, would drop to 2-3. Turkey and the Dominican Republic go head-to-head. So obviously one will be 3-2, the other will be 2-3. Off the steal, Davis. Oh, a nice right-hand jam. That's what the crowd's been waiting for. We'll go through more of the Group C permutations. Early timeout, largest lead of the day. off the quick timeout to start the fourth quarter. Anthony Davis had a big dunk, 73-54. And the timeout certainly for Mike Fratello to remind his team, we want to keep it as close as possible. As we were talking in Group C, the winner of Turkey, Dominican Republic is going to finish in second place at 3-2. So the loser will be 2-3. Ukraine would drop to 2-3. New Zealand won earlier today on this floor, so they would be 2-3. So you'd have a three-way tie for those third and fourth positions.
And they've all played each other, all ended up 1-1. And I think that Ukraine might come out on the short end point-wise based on an 11-point loss to New Zealand. That was the biggest blowout of the three.
And another block on the end line, but they'll rule out of bounds. Last touch by Anthony Davis. So there's a look at the Group C standings. We told you Turkey, Dominican Republic still to come later in Bilbao. Ukraine assuming the loss. And New Zealand, which had started 0-3. When the Kiwis won that game, we were listening in on that huddle. They think they're going to Barcelona, so they might have done the same math you did. Ukraine might end up on the short end, but a lot of mathematics to do once it's all said and done.
And it changes if we throw Dominican Republic in there instead of Turkey.
Right,
if Turkey wins. So
it's going to take a few more hours. Another result to come as Steph Curry gets called for the foul.
You know, the Ukraine beat the Dominican Republic by 10. So they're probably going to be pulling for Turkey today.
Someone's going to be very disappointed. I know Ukraine's been a big story. New Zealand would also be considering. They had Turkey on the ropes on Saturday when this tournament started. Up
right,
12.
Now you're filling my head. Now you're filling my head with
facts you don't need to know. Mashula with a three. Alexander Mashula.
He's had a good tournament. He had 18 and a 19 in that win over Turkey, and he has had to provide some scoring punch without Sergei Gladier.
Skye tried to penetrate and feed. Pujetter playing with 4 fouls brings it up the floor. Now bad pass and nearly stolen by Derrick Rose, reading that one easily.
That ball had a little too much helium in it.
Nice play, and I'm sure fans in Chicagoland and Bulls fans all across are saying, just don't get hurt. But you know, these guys know one way to play, and they give it all when they're on the floor. Natiasko, nice ball fake and score for the big man. Kirill Natiasko, he's got 6.
Mentioned he played for Sean Miller. He left before his senior year to turn pro.
Nice easy feed from Thompson to Davis. 12 points for Anthony Davis this afternoon.
Well, Team USA will play Saturday, and then they'll have 2 days off, which will really come in handy. And if they advance to Madrid, they will play, I believe, on Thursday of next week. So Friday will be their travel day.
Correct.
And
then Saturday to practice in Madrid.
That's right. The second semifinal will be on Friday. So in a sense, Team USA has an extra day off, but it's also a travel day.
Correct. And there's a nice job by Fiba to do that, because in past you haven't had 2 different cities.
Well, and they're chartering, Mark.
They are chartering.
They may leave right after their game on Thursday.
But on the Spanish half of the draw, they don't have to leave Madrid after they arrive. As Klay Thompson knocks down a 3. And whoever comes out of Barcelona will have to make the short trip to Madrid.
Thompson and Curry looking way more comfortable as the tournament goes on. Those guys combined for almost 500 threes during their NBA season.
Hanging and scoring is Alexander Lipovic. You've been more impressed with the Harden, Thompson, and Curry today? With a foul underneath.
Well, and you know, we've complimented Kyrie Irving as well, who has had, I think, a pretty solid tournament. But yes, because we know, we're putting our thinking caps on. We know that Fareed and Davis aren't necessarily going to dominate that Spanish front line. They'll play well. They've proven that. But Team USA is going to need a balanced effort from that entire rotation of 8 or 9 or whatever Coach K chooses to use. And we also know that history tells us that when Harden, Curry, and Thompson are in a flow offensively that they're very difficult to guard. So it's now, as we've said from the very start of pool play, it's about chemistry and continuity, if not fancy plays. There's no time for fancy, tricky plays. You'd rather have tricky players.
Marcus Cousins hitting 1 of 2. Ihor Zaitsev picked up the foul prior, his second. 6:40 to go. Jeter on the floor. Tipped away loose, and it'll stay with Ukraine. We talked about Pooh Jeter on this team, and when he played in Ukraine, meeting Alexander Volkov. He also, before he had gone away, he was in the D-League when he was first undrafted. That's where he met Joe Wolf, apparently, and those ties are all together.
Yeah. Pooh Jeter is one of those basketball lifers that the average fan has never heard of. But when his career is over in 5 or 7 years, he's going to have a fulfilling career. He'll have a nice bank account. He'll live a good life. And he'll explain to people that he was a professional basketball player, but only played 1 year in the NBA. You know who's having a resurgence of his career is Stephon Marbury.
In China, right?
Is like the Michael Jordan of China. And he really is. Yeah, he's still going strong and still having a very productive career both on and off the court.
Well, a lot of times for American basketball fans, especially casual fans, if you're not in the NBA, you're almost not playing basketball. And there's some good leagues out there. We've talked about the ACB in Spain, the Bundesliga, right, in Germany.
There's so many college.
Italian league, Serie A.
So many guys that played in college that have stayed in Europe or China for 5 to 10 years, that have become household names, that make a good living. And oftentimes, and Keith Langford's a great example of this, the former Kansas star. He's been offered a number of NBA veteran contracts, but he cannot afford to come back to the United States because he makes €2 million a year. And that's, with the exchange rate, a lot of money.
That's more than $2 million. We're keeping an eye on that Mexico-Korea game for you. Korea's within 10 with 1.5 minutes to go. Mexico, a win would get them 4th place in Group D to face the United States next. Otherwise, Angola would be in position. Nice feed from Cousins to Fareed. Big to big for the score.
You know, the other thing about Americans playing overseas is the guys that adapt to the other cultures, the guys that were good guys when they were in college, they tend to have a easier transition. They're not looking for every McDonald's or Starbucks for their, caramel frappuccinos. If you adapt to another country's culture, whether you're in Spain or China, which is not easy, by the way, Italy, France, you tend to have more success as opposed to, thinking about how often you're going to get home. With Skype and the internet now, these guys manage to stay close to home and make a great living, and Pooh Jeter is in that category.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Skype on a steal by Kyrie Irving, who's going to take it all the way down for the stuff. Those of us who go on vacations overseas, you know how difficult it could be, and you're all together. These guys have to go singularly. More on that. 4:57 to go. Timeout in Bilbao. Winding down pool play at Vizcaya Arena. Team USA with an 85-64 lead over Ukraine. 4:57 to go. Team USA will be making the short trip east to Barcelona from the Bay of Biscay. We'll be headed to the Mediterranean to set up shop in Barcelona.
Few better countries in the world than that city. Great people, great spots, tourism, sight lines, beautiful cathedrals. Of course, FC Barcelona Stadium.
Yes. Great little stadium. Another turnover.
Great little stadium of 100,000 plus.
That'll get the fans going.
Yep.
Flying slam by the Manimal.
Fareed just wants to make sure that even though he hadn't had the same impact on this game as he has had on first 4 pool play games, that he can turn that energy on. Been a great tournament for him so far.
Getter driving underneath, turns and shoots. Comes right to Irving. Rosen finding Irving, looking for Cousins. Gets him over Kropsov. Not there, but Fareed is from the weak side.
Right on cue. You know, we said it yesterday. We've repeated this, but he treats missed shots like passes to himself. That's the kind of mindset a great offensive rebounder has to have. The more you go to the rim on a shot, whether it's missed or made, the more offensive rebounds you're going to get. Now watch him start. He starts heading to the rim. There's no block out, obviously, but he smells the miss and he cleans up the mess.
10 points, 8 boards for Fareed. Boogie Cousins getting a nice hand as he comes out. Andre Drummond will get some runs. 6 American players in double figures, all 5 starters. And with 3:46 to go, the United States cruising on its way toward a 5-0 mark in pool play. So the top team from Group C, which will be the United States, will get the last qualifier from Group D. And just going final, Mexico with a win. So we could start talking about the U.S. and Mexico in the round of 16 on Saturday.
And round of 16 now, everything becomes a knockout round. Everything becomes the 7th game of the NBA playoffs. It becomes an NCAA tournament game. Is that Gladier coming in?
Yeah, looks like Gladier's going to
maybe
come
try to run up and down a little bit and get ready.
And it's Fareed putting on a little show for those in Bilbao.
And I don't want to confuse anybody, Mark, because we got it wrong the first time, but the goal average will be between the 3 teams that finish 2 and 3 in Pool C.
Right, not the entire pool.
That's exactly
just the 3.
right. Because it looks to me right now that all 3 teams will be 1-1
on their head-to-head. Yep.
And so there you see the Mexico score. Now Mexico, by and large, is a team made up of American players who have Mexican ancestry. A lot of the guys not necessarily familiar, but most everybody's played college basketball. Jorge Gutierrez, of course, played for Mike Montgomery. He now plays for the Brooklyn Nets. Orlando Mendez Valdez played at Western Kentucky. It's a group of guys that have played a lot in college. Ramon Martinez, who starred for New Mexico, the Lobos, who's from El Paso. He plays on the Mexican national team.
Now he'll be playing for Old Mexico against the United States in the first knockout round game coming up on Saturday. Here's Jeter, little step back miss.
I said Ramon, I meant Ramon Martinez, who played his high school basketball in El Paso before playing for Steve Alford.
DeMar DeRozan in and out. Now every point counts for Ukraine on the lob for the rim. Mikhailuk not able to finish there.
These are valuable minutes for the young guy. He's going to have an adjustment at Kansas because he's so young. And he's going to miss a lot of the summer. Oh, he's missed all the summer, but I expect him to be a good role player for Bill Self this year and watch his career take off.
A reminder, FIBA World Cup round of 16 is going to tip off Saturday. It'll be the United States against their border friends from the south, Mexico. 10 a.m. Eastern time. All games available live on ESPN3 and the Watch ESPN app. So on ESPN2 Saturday 10 Eastern, USA versus Mexico. That'll be just the start of it because Mexico has 4th place in Group D, and there's now so much talk about who'll finish 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at the top of Group D. Lithuania and Slovenia still to come tonight, and the winner of that game will win the group. If Slovenia loses, they can end up 2nd, pushing Australia to the coveted 3rd spot.
That's why Goran Dragic tweeted out his displeasure with Australia essentially, putting on a Washington Generals-like performance today. In that game, Yannick Moreira from Angola ended up with 38 points and 15 rebounds, and he wasn't seeing Aaron Baines and some of the size that Australia can throw out there, but he'll be a senior for Larry Brown this year at SMU and was a junior college All-American a year ago. he had a up and down junior year due to injuries, but that's just another guy that Larry Brown can count on as he builds that Mustang program into a national contender.
It's a great season last year in Fort Worth.
In Dallas.
In Dallas, sorry.
Yeah. Now you're talking my
Big
neighborhood.
crowd. You're going to correct me there when we get to North Texas. But just the great crowd. It was a place to be.
Oh, yeah, it really was.
Former president showing up.
Quarterbacks of the Cowboys.
Yeah.
John Saunders made a couple of appearances
Bigger
there.
than all the guys we've just been talking about.
Yeah.
Wet spot on the floor. Delay. And United States getting set to head to Barcelona after the completion here, but another steal. Ball tipped in the air. Plumlee the save, and the U.S. can set up. Under 2 minutes left. DeRozan gets the contact. Can't get the roll. He'll head to the line for 2 free throws with 1:49 left.
NBA players, if you're a young player at home watching, although you should be in school, they are so good at driving, and then if there's any contact, they just yell. Hey!
Now, I remember when I was in school, there was a class where I was in audio-visual class, and our job was to tape games like these. So I hope there's a student somewhere.
Yeah, or you've got TiVo.
That's right.
But really, they're good at that. Contact, yell and scream.
Sell the call.
And they sell the call very well.
Derrick Rose wrapping up. I'm going to call it successful. 5 games in 6 days, able to answer the bell for all 5.
We're as tired of talking about him as he is answering those questions.
And he's going to get them in Barcelona, and then he's going to get them when the Bulls open up training camp.
It's all a process for his return.
Oh, yeah, and then opening night, he'll get Christmas Day.
That's going to be a good Bulls team this year. One of the co-favorites in the East. You look at who they've added. Pau Gasol, by the way, is having a great tournament. I'd say Fareed, Anthony Davis, Pau Gasol right now. Leading candidates for MVP.
It's going to be fun to see how the East all comes together this year. We'll see what Miami does with no LeBron, getting Bosh back. Plumlee trying to force it inside, and Kyrie Irving is down on the floor on the baseline, writhing in some pain. Not what anyone around USA basketball wants to see with 1:12 to go in the preliminary round.
And this is a dilemma.
Not sure if someone fell on him. And Kyrie Irving seems to be in some
medical staff is out there right away.
Hey, it's a big year coming up in Cleveland as well, and that's all in the minds of everyone. Not only with Team USA heading to Barcelona and beyond, but with LeBron James and Kevin Love headed to Cleveland. Let's take a look at exactly what happened.
Yeah, I think he lands on his hip right here.
Oh.
There you see it.
I don't know if he felt Mikhail Luke might have extended the leg or not, but it looked just.
No, it's just body contact at the rim, really. And he, you know, he plays fearlessly, and we've talked about how he gets to the rim at will, and that time he just got himself caught on the contact, wasn't able to brace, and came down and landed on that hip.
Reaching back toward that left side as he walks off. Something to keep our eyes on in the next couple of days. And a loose ball foul up top. Nope. Going to reset the clock. Ball hit the foot.
Well, they're not going to have much trouble with Mexico. So obviously, if this is a day-to-day thing, see Mason Plumlee, the Spanish fans in the arena will appreciate that little soccer move right there.
Mikhail Luke will line one up and knocks one down from the left side.
That may be a common occurrence in time in the Allen Fieldhouse. You know, it's hard to measure him versus best players in the world, but he is one of the best young players in Europe, and he will not be overmatched in the Big 12. But I think there'll be a little bit of a learning process getting to campus, and he's got to catch up on his academic work. His English is great, by the way, and his mom and dad are teachers.
Well, Plumlee here in the final seconds, offensive board and stuff. Well, they got some rebuilding to do. No Joel Embiid, Andrew Wiggins, both went the top three.
They don't rebuild in Kansas.
They reload?
No, they're not rebuilding this year.
They had a good draft.
They had a good draft, and they'll have another good draft. They've got some excellent players.
Well, the United States 10 seconds away from putting the wraps on another 5-0 preliminary round. And a late basket from Ihor Zaitsev.
That score looks so much better with Ukraine at 71 than 68. If you're Mike Krzyzewski, they played as well as they could. They controlled the tempo of the game. It was good for them. Coach K got a chance to play a lot of people. You see right in the middle of your screen, that's the big guy in the Ukrainian shirt. That's Alexander Volkov, very pleased with his country's performance today, Mark. Team USA moves on.
They do move on. Fran and I will have some final thoughts coming up. The United States with the win.